Let's speak more about the ANC's decision yesterday to suspend its former president, Jacob Zuma, now, and the views of the tripartite alliance. Bring in Cosatu President Zingiswa, Losi. A very good evening to you, ma'am. Good to have your time tonight. Do you agree, then, with the views that we've heard, especially as expressed by the ANC in that briefing, that what the former president has done this time has simply gone too far, that Jacob Zuma is out of line, essentially?
Thank you very much for having us, Timbekile, and good evening to the viewers. Indeed, Cosatu welcomes the decision of the NEC, of the ANC, and we respect that decision. And I think it's a decision that the NEC had to take, and we will say based on the application that was done to it by former President Jacob Zuma. Because you cannot dare an organization in that manner. Remember, we're talking about a former president of the ANC, whom during his tenure, when he was campaigning for the African National Congress, characterized the old board leaders of the ANC. When they are not elected in conference, they sit at home and they decide to form opposition parties to the ANC. He characterized it, and I think media can go and play those. And he is the one that today is doing exactly what during his tenure saw that was counter-revolutionary. And we think that the NEC of the ANC is empowered by the constitution of the ANC, and former President Jacob Zuma is an ordinary member of the ANC, just like all members of the ANC, to whom is subjected to the constitution and the policies of the ANC, that to which he took an oath to adhere by that constitution and those policies of the ANC. And I guess like he did during his tenure as the president of the ANC, when in his leadership, some leaders of the ANC and in the Youth League were suspended and later expelled. And that was because the NEC of the ANC, through its constitution, is empowered to do so and act on all of its members.
You say that the former president basically was daring the ANC. Why do you think he would do that, and why would he do so now? What do you read as his ultimate objective at this point?
Well, Temegila, I don't want to take a risk and read his mind. And I do not want to do that. And I think he can best explain that himself. But what we should be looking at as the alliance and members of the ANC is what the constitution of the ANC dictates of the NEC in terms of discipline to its members, and what it expects of the members of the ANC in terms of their discipline to the organization and respect of the constitution of the ANC. And anyone that defines himself or itself outside of that constitution, the NEC is empowered to do that. But if we're going to do a mind reading, tomorrow former President Jacob Zuma will say, but that's not what I was thinking, and I don't want to take that gamble. But what I'm saying is clearly he has defined himself outside the constitution, outside the policies of the ANC. He has said to the ANC, I will remain as the member, but I will not, as he said, campaign for the ANC. And that's crossing a line. And the ANC could not sit and idle and do nothing, especially when the media kept on asking, so what is it that you are going to do? Because he has remained and he has said that he has not terminated his membership. So I guess the ANC-NEC has done what it should do to any member of the ANC who has not terminated his membership or her membership, but remains as the member of the ANC, and empowered by its constitution, it has taken a decision to suspend him.
There is also the idea that the ANC took much too long to reach this decision, because he made the pronouncements around his support for Umkhonto weSizwe, gave it his endorsement, said he would not be leaving the ANC, but he has zero faith in the ANC leadership currently and will vote for another organization. Why was this decision not taken almost immediately after that?
Well, I don't think the ANC, the only thing that they were dealing with was former President Jacob Zuma. You have an ANC that has processes that it must engage itself on. You have an ANC that was preparing for its January 8th. You have an ANC that has a responsibility to over 50 million people in this country. And therefore, when one member transgresses, the ANC needs to follow the processes. It can't just wake up tomorrow because one member says, I don't like you anymore, and because of why I don't like you anymore, but I still become your member, but I'm gonna go and not support you and campaign against you, then the ANC, as an institution of this magnitude, must wake up during that day and decide that we are taking an action. The ANC had to, I'm sure that the ANC went through the processes until it had to convene its NEC. I don't think the ANC had to convene a special NEC just because its member has decided to say, during these elections, I'm not going to campaign for you. It had to follow the processes. It had to deal with what was in front of it whilst processing these issues correctly so until it came to its NEC that was scheduled and take that decision.
But there's
so
also
I think for us it's about a decision that has been arrived at. How long that would have taken, and I think because those that still have that still support former President Jacob Zuma would still say, but the ANC was rushing to take that decision. So it is good that the ANC has taken the process that it has taken, but because it has finally arrived at that decision.
There is an awkwardness, is there not, if not an outright embarrassing element to how the former president, to use a word that you used earlier, has become emboldened, because ultimately he is a creation of the ANC in the last decade and a half, and some of the leaders who shored up his daring acts, if you can phrase it that way, over the years, politically, legally, etc., supported him, stood by him, even when many in the country said, hang on a moment, you're going too far and you're letting this man do as he pleases. And with that, these are the consequences, are they not, that ultimately, if you embolden, encourage, protect certain behavior, it comes back to bite you.
Well, former President Jacob Zuma is not the first leader that went out of the ANC to form a political party after he would have lost a conference.
No, what I mean is...
So I guess, Tembekile, this is how leaders or individuals actually, when they are entrusted with an organization, they develop personality cult inside the organization.
No, what I mean,
and that is why today he still has, but that is why today he still has people that are following him.
If I may come in there,
because they has developed a cult. My apologies.
If I may come in there, the point I'm making is this, that yes, there are many other political leaders who've come through the ANC, left it for whatever reason, but there is a unique set of circumstances around former President Jacob Zuma. He is the one president who the ANC stood by the current SG, Fikile Mbalula's own admission, protected him during scrutiny of the non-security upgrades at his homestead in Gandla, multiple cabinet reshuffles that at times did not make sense, allegations through the years dating back to the mid-2000s that he may have been involved in arms deal corruption, and the list goes on and on. Yet and still, the ANC defended him through all of that, and he appeared to get bolder and bolder until it came to a point, as we're seeing now, where the organization was unable to tame him. Should it not take responsibility?
Well, I suppose that the ANC would have deliberated on that matter, and when one listened to some leaders of the ANC, even in the KZN province, some have said, indeed, we may have contributed to this. And of course, I would say that the ANC would have contributed one way or another to his emboldenment on these issues. But it does not justify what he has done. And I say this because what becomes important is that at the point now, the ANC is realizing, and that's why, by the way, Tembekile, the ANC called for its renewal in Mangaung. Not the second, the first Mangaung. The ANC called for the ANC renewal. And through that process, you would have seen a number of individuals in the ANC falling off, because now the ANC said, if we are to renew the ANC, if we are to take the ANC back to its former glory, the way the people knew the ANC to be, then certain characters within members of the ANC cannot still be maintained internally. Some, like him, decided then indeed, I have no space in the African National Congress that is on the route of renewal, and decided then to form his own political party. The ANC, when it reached that decision in its conference in Nasrec that we are for the renewal of the ANC, it would have, because it has realized the mistakes that it would have done in falling short of praising and individuals and over the organization and developing personality cults in the movement. And that's why it took a resolution for renewal. And this is the renewal of the ANC. And I guess those that would have followed the former president, who think that he represents their interest in spite of everything that you have also mentioned, then are defining themselves outside the founding principles of the ANC. And therefore, the renewal process would have done its job by shedding itself of those that do not want a renewal of the ANC and the ANC to return back to the ANC of 1912. And therefore, they are going to form their own whole. And I guess this is what renewal process would have consequences of. And I don't think the ANC should really be focusing more on those that are leaving than saying, by others leaving, then it means continue on the route of renewal, because then those that want to see the ANC of Oliver Tambo, the ANC of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, will come back to the ANC, because those that would have made them to leave it have left the ANC.
But it says something about the ANC, even the ANC of today, of the last 5 years, that this was a man it kept in its fold even when he was accused of corruption. It defended him. I mean, even when he was elected, yes, the charges were reinstated, taken away, etc., then brought back. But the final straw, ultimately, for the ANC when it comes to former President Zuma is him trying to decampaign the organization. None of the other accusations made against him over the years was strong enough for the party to act against him. Is that not telling of the party's moral fiber and where it stands? That it's only when it was at the threat of being decampaigned that it thought, now is the time to act.
You see, Thembekile, a renewal process and a cleansing process takes time. I can tell you now, even with if you go to church or to a traditional healer, if they tell you that you've got a dark cloud hanging on you, even if you don't see it, but your things are not going well, and they tell you to go for a cleansing, it does not mean when you go for a cleansing tomorrow, you are going to wake up your things. It means you must be consistent. You must be consistent to be connected to your ancestors. And I think the ANC has done exactly that in the renewal process. Continue to pray to its ancestors for it to help it in the cleansing process of the ANC. How that is going to unfold, no one would have known. But I guess this is a response that we're getting from the ancestors of the ANC by telling the ANC that this is the moment and allowing former President Jacob Zuma to take the route that he has taken, so that the ANC does not have to worry itself about that part of its cleansing and renewal. So you can't say that it should have happened immediately, because the renewal process started at Nasrec when the president of the ANC was elected for the first time as the president of the ANC. And you know, as the media, because you also spoke about this, remember the former SG of the ANC, immediately after Nasrec, in 2 months down the line, he went to KZN and he said, it's a matter of 5 years, comrades. It's a matter of 5 years, comrades. Meaning that what the ANC has resolved through this president of the renewal is what they were not going to accept. Where is he today? Where is he? That is a renewal process. You know, former President Kgalema Motlanthe always say the ANC is like an elephant. You would mistake it that as it comes there, you would think that it's going in the other direction. until when it comes through you and it goes through you, then you will realize when you are down and the ANC will remain standing. It will have bruises, of course, but it shall remain standing. He has made that depiction of an elephant, and this is what we say today, because he is not the first leader that has left the ANC. Where is COPE today?
Okay.
It broke into two, I don't know how many times. So let us allow the renewal of the ANC to unfold. Let us allow those that can relate to the new ANC that we want to see come back to the ANC and fight for the renewal of the ANC. And those that define themselves out of the ANC and cannot stand in terms of the oath that they took voluntarily as members of the ANC, they can easily leave the ANC.
A quick final question, because we're out of time, Ms. Losi. A quick final question. You mentioned the departures, for example, of people like Musi Walakota and Bazi Mashilowa to form COPE after the 2007 conference in Polokwane, where President Zuma was successful, elected for his first term as leader of the African National Congress. At the beginning of the 2010s, there was the expulsion of Julius Malema, who went on to form the EFF, now the third largest party in the country. While those gains that they made were significant, this is the first time the ANC is staring at the expulsion of a former president of the entire party, an ex-president of the country. How much of a shift do you think it would cause in the ANC if former President Zuma is indeed expelled? And do you think the ANC would be better off without him?
Former President Zuma left the ANC. He left voluntarily so. He called a press briefing, Tembeki. Media was there. I think what the media should do probably and help all of us is to direct also these questions to him personally, to answer them, because he took a conscious decision. And by the way, when you go back, because he left a long time ago, you know, when they say when a woman is gone, I think he behaved like a woman that is gone, that when a woman leaves in a relationship, physically, it means she had left a long time ago. This Mkhonto Wesizwe party was MK party. If you go back to the IEC when they started applying for it, it was in September last year. It was in September last year. So this was long planned. When the media was called, you were called for the launch of something that was given birth to, conceived long time ago. And indeed, and I'm saying, former President Jacob Zuma took a decision. He made a choice. He is the one, when he was at the helm of the ANC, defined and characterized people who are doing exactly what he did. The ANC does not even have to characterize it. We just need to go back to his videos and say, what does it mean about him? And go back and say, this is exactly how he has defined himself, because he did so. This is, he foresaw what he was going to do. He defined this character of a person that is counter-revolutionary. And I don't think we should be spending more time as the alliance speaking about an individual that made a choice. We should be focusing on how we're going to rebuild this alliance, how we're going to ensure that the ANC in the renewal process responds to the needs of millions of South Africans. The ANC has a contract with the people of South Africa, not with individuals. And I think we owe it to the people of South Africa to respond to the needs, the workers in this country and the working class at large.
Zingiswa Losi, President of Cosatu, member of the Tripartite Alliance with the ANC, thank you for your time. Well, if the former president does want to speak to Newzroom Africa, we are available to bring you that interview.